Welcome to the Division of Education, Innovation and Energy e-learning program. I am Meave Nelson Eastman, and today I'm happy to engage the students of Standard 5, Standard 4 and the Standard 3 classes in English Language Arts. Today, our area of focus is capitalization and punctuation. But before we get any further, let us take a look at our objectives. We want our boys and girls at the end of this lesson to be able to examine the importance of using capital letters and punctuation marks. We also want them to use punctuation marks and capital letters correctly in sentences. Before we get into the body of the lesson, I want to begin by asking a simple question that is already on the screen. The question is, are punctuation marks and capital letters still relevant in these modern times? What are your thoughts? Do you think they are still important now that we live in an age when there is so much computers and technology? Boys and girls, come with me as we go on a little adventure. Our objective is to find out whether capitalization and punctuation marks are still relevant in the times that we live. As we go along, we are going to meet a lot of obstacles in the way. We are going to use these obstacles as learning experiences. There will also be road signs. Road signs are there to direct and guide us. We are going to use these road signs to learn as much as possible that we can learn. So let's go. Obstacle number 1. Can, candy, clean, cars. What is this? I see 4 words beginning with the letter C. Should I take these words and arrange them in alphabetical order? But if I do that, will there be a meaning coming from these group of words? So perhaps I shouldn't. What about looking at these words individually? Let's try. A can, candy, a place that is clean, no littering, and then I have cars. But what does this really mean? What is the writer trying to tell me? Perhaps I should look at one of the signs. Did you see that? A sign just came in. It is saying sentence. Perhaps this is a sentence. And boys and girls, what do you know about sentences? Yes, sentences begin with capital letters. And they have a particular ending. They end with either full stop, question mark, or exclamation mark. So we're going to fix this so that we can have a sentence. So let me take my pen here, and I'm going to write, instead of having can, I want to write the word can. Capital C-A-N. Now I'm going to move on to candy. Is candy here in this sentence a sweet? I don't think so. It is the name of a person. So again, I'm going to put a capital C for candy. Names of persons begin with capital letters. So here I have candy. I have capital C for can and capital C for candy because candy is the name of this person in the sentence. And then I have clean. This will remain as is. And then I have cars, which will also remain as is. But then our sentence must have an ending. So I'm going to read it again from the beginning. Can Candy clean cars? Yes, that is a question. So at the end of this sentence, I must put something. What must I put there? Yes, I must place a question mark. So I'm going to write a question mark here. Right, beautiful. And my sentence reads, can Candy clean cars? We are now going to continue our journey. It says capitalize with mints. M-I-N-T-S. It is written right here. Capitalize with mints. This M means that the months of the year, we have the months here, they all begin with capital letters. And months are made up of days. So days also begin with capital letters. All the days of the week begin with capital letters. And days, some days are holidays. And our holidays also begins with capital letters. That is the names of the holidays. For example, if the name of the holiday is Christmas Day, we have a capital C for Christmas. And a capital D for the word day. We come down to the I in the word mints. The I means that the pronoun I is always written with a capital letter. And we capitalize names. So whatever the name is, as long as it is the special name of people, of places, we always write them with capital letters. We also capitalize T, titles. Titles of what? Titles of books, titles of movies, titles of poems, and so on. S. S stands for the start of sentences. Yes, we start sentences, and I'm going to highlight the word sentences here, with capital letters. Every single sentence must begin with a capital letter. We also start the beginning of quotations, whether they are at the start of a sentence or they are in the middle of the sentence. We always begin the quotation with a capital letter. So that sentence within the quotation also begins with a capital letter. We also start each line of poetry with a capital letter. Let's move on. Oh, another stop sign. This stop sign here, and let me highlight it. Perhaps I should use another color. Let me add some green, and I'm going to put my stop sign as though it's a real stop sign. Right. This stop sign says, when it is sentence writing time, you have to use a stop sign. Because if you don't, then that is wrong. I'm going to put an X here. Your sentence will go on and on. A full stop is for telling, a question mark for asking, an exclamation mark means there are lots and lots of feelings. So the exclamation mark tells us more about feelings. This sounds sort of poetic. Can you join me on screen and let us say it together? We are going to go after 4. 4. When it is sentence writing time, you have to make use of stop signs. Because if you don't, then that is Wrong. Your sentence will go on and on. A full stop is for telling. A question mark for asking. An exclamation mark means there are lots and lots of feelings. Beautiful. Let's see what is happening here. Another obstacle on the way. Let's see what it says. Let's keep looking. This sentence says, if you cook, Abigail will do the dishes. Why would a person want to cook Abigail? Abigail here is a person. Why would one want to cook her? Let me read again. If you cook, Abigail will do the dishes. I think there is a little clue that I'm missing. Let me see. Use a comma. If we use a comma, perhaps the sentence will make sense. But where do we put this comma? Let me take the eraser and just erase my little mark in here. Where are we going to put the comma? We can put the comma after the word cook. Right. Why do we put a comma after the word cook? When a sentence begins with the subordinate clause, and this part of the sentence is called the subordinate clause. When a sentence begins with a subordinate clause, we use a comma to separate the subordinate clause from the principal clause. So this will be the principal clause, and here is the subordinate clause. So we use a comma to separate the subordinate clause and the principal clause. Let's try one of those sentences. The sentence says, while we were eating, a snake approached our campsite. Are we really eating a snake? So therefore, we need to properly punctuate the sentence using a comma. But the question is, where are we going to put that comma? Nobody wants to eat a snake. Where are we going to put that comma? Read again. While we were eating, a snake approached our campsite. Got it? We put the comma after the word eating. So our comma comes after eating. Right? Didn't put it in too nicely, but it can work. Our comma comes after the word eating, and our sentence therefore will read, while we were eating, a snake approached our campsite. Very good. Let's move on. Another sign. A very huge road sign. This one says, other uses of the comma. So, beside the use of the comma that we just made of, there are other uses of a comma, and they are here. A comma is used to separate items in a list. So I'm going to tick that one. To separate items in a list. It is also used for nouns in apposition. A comma is used after the words yes and no at the start of a sentence. For example, you're answering, yes, I did my homework. So you have yes and then a comma. And likewise, no and then a comma at the start of a sentence. We also use a comma in direct speech. When we are using direct speech, the comma is used to separate the words of the speaker from the rest of the sentence. Let's move on our journey. I see a little girl that is here. Let me see what happens. She's saying, my daily routine includes following activities: 20 push-ups, walking and reading. I didn't get that, so I'm going to read it again. She's saying, my daily routine includes the following activities: 20 push-ups, walking and reading. Something about this sentence is sort of confusing. And that's because a punctuation mark perhaps is missing. Let's see what the road sign says. It says, use a colon to introduce a list. Is there a list here? I'm going to read to see if there is a list. My daily routine includes the following activities. Oh yes, there is a list. The list begins with 20 push-ups, and it continues with walking and then reading. I am now going to place a colon after the word activities. So here am I. All right, that's my colon here. All right, let us see if we can do another one of those. This sentence says, we bought these items: paper, scissors, and gloves. Remember, we are trying to use a colon to introduce a list. Where does this list begin? We bought these items: paper, scissors, and gloves. Read it carefully. See if you can find the beginning of the list of items. And then when you do, I want you to put a colon right at the beginning of that list. Got it? Beautiful. Our colon comes after the word items. Right, beautiful, it's there. So our sentence will read, we bought these items: paper, scissors, and gloves. Let's move on. Another signboard. And this signboard warns us about misuses. Misuses to avoid. We don't want to misuse punctuation marks. It is saying that we do not use a colon between, and I want to emphasize on the word between. We do not use a colon between a verb and its complement or the object. For example, if you have a sentence that says, some of my favorite fruits are oranges, apples, and grapes. The verb in this sentence is the word are. And our signboard is reminding us that we do not use a colon after or between a verb and its complement. So this is a verb here, and here we have oranges not as a complement but as the object of the sentence. So we have the verb and we have the object, and we never use a colon between the verb and the object of the sentence, and I want you to always remember that. So instead of having the colon, our sentence should really be written as, some of my favorite fruits, and then we have are, no colon, and then we start oranges, and then we include our comma. Oranges, apples, and grapes. A very important lesson to learn. Now, between is here again, and we never use a colon between a preposition, and its object. And our example is clearly identified in this sentence. So, a flower is made up of the stamen and the pistil. The preposition in the sentence is this word of. And the object is the stamen. The object is also the pistil, but I'm not going to go right down there. So we're going to look at this one here. So the colon is never, ever used between the preposition, and the object. Right. So what should our sentence say instead? Our sentence should really say, a flower is made up of, and we should have of here, no colon in between, and we continue with the stamen and the pistil. Let us move on. Let's keep going on this adventure. I know it's sort of tiring, but at the end, we are going to achieve our objective. Remember what we are trying to find out? We are trying to find out if capital letters and punctuation marks are still relevant in today's society. So let's keep going. This obstacle is saying Marcus' sister spent last year in India. The information here is definitely not clear. Marcus' sister spent last year in India. Something is missing. Let's see. The use of an apostrophe to show ownership. So we know that in this sentence, there is an owner of something. And we always place the apostrophe mark next to the person that owns the thing or the item or the person. So in this sentence, an apostrophe mark will go by the word Marcus. Let me get my pen. An apostrophe mark can either be placed before an S or after an S. Let us see where we are going to place it in the word Marcus. If we place our apostrophe mark here, we are saying that the name of the person is Marku and not Marcus. So we must have the correct spelling of the word. Let me take this off here. We must have the correct spelling of the word first, and then we place our apostrophe. So the apostrophe will come after the S. And the sentence is now read as, Marcus's sister spent last year in India. Do you want to try one of these sentences? Let's go. Our sentence here reads, thank you for refunding the children's money. Again, thank you for refunding the children's money. We use the apostrophe to show ownership. Do we find an owner? An owner of what? Yes, the money. Where are we going to put this apostrophe? We are going to put it by the word children. But we have to first observe if it is the correct spelling of a word. We just won't go about putting in apostrophe marks just like that. We pay close attention to the spelling of the word. So we look at the word. Do we have a word childrens, children's? Is that a word? And I'm sure you know that the answer to that question is no, that's not a word. So therefore, we cannot put our apostrophe at the end of the S, because every single letter that comes before an apostrophe mark should correctly spell a word. So therefore, I'm going to take the apostrophe mark from there, and I'm going to now put it where it will spell a word correctly. What is the word? The word is children. And let me remind you that if you are thinking about singular and plural, the singular for the word children is child, and the plural is children. So therefore, our apostrophe comes between the N and the S. Let's move on as we continue our journey. This signboard is saying that there are other uses of the apostrophe. And the apostrophe is not only used to show ownership, but it is also used for, what is this word? It is also used for contractions. Yes, apostrophe marks are used for contractions. And where in contractions do we use these apostrophe marks? They are used where to shorten words, and they are placed where the letters have been omitted. There are quite a number of examples on your screen. So take a look at them before we move on to our next adventure. Let's go. Now we have another obstacle. The obstacle says, the child yell, I don't want to clean my room. Reading these sentences are also difficult. The child yell, I don't want to clean my room. Let's look to see what is missing here. We are reminded from our signboards that we must use quotation marks to enclose direct speech or quotations. So we know that we must put in quotation mark. The big question is, what are the exact words of the child in this sentence? Did the child say the child yelled? Or did the child say, I don't want to clean my room? Okay, yes, the child said, I don't want to clean my room. So we are going to put in the quotation marks by I, starting with I and ending by the apostrophe mark in room. But we have to be very careful, because when we are putting in quotation marks, we need to separate the exact words of the child, and I'm going to highlight the exact words of the child. I don't want to clean my room. We need to separate it from the rest of the sentence with a punctuation mark. And the punctuation mark that we are going to use is a comma. So to separate, I put a comma here. Let me see if I can get it in. Beautiful. And now I can put in the quotation marks. Remember, quotation marks are written above the line. So just before the word I, and the last quotation mark comes after the closing punctuation mark, which in this case is an exclamation mark. So I put in the closing quotation mark here. And the sentence reads now, the child yelled, I don't want to clean my room. Does this remind you of yourself? I hope not. Let's move on. What a sentence. This sentence is saying, the criminal said the judge should be hanged. From reading the sentence, you can definitely tell that something is off. Does a criminal say what should happen to a judge? So something is wrong, definitely wrong with this sentence. Now, I want to read it one more time to see if I can really understand it. The criminal said the judge should be hanged. Use a quotation mark to enclose direct speech is one of the signs that we are seeing written in red on the board. And this sentence is missing quotation marks, because actually the person that is speaking in the sentence is not the criminal, but the judge. So, because the judge is the one that is doing the speaking, I am going to put a comma after the word, before the word said, because I know the judge will not say, said the judge, when speaking. And I'm going to also put a comma after judge. Beautiful. I put commas here because the judge will never say, while speaking, said the judge. Now I'm going to put in my quotation marks. So I'm going to put the quotation marks here at the beginning of the sentence and right after the comma here. And I'm also going to put one at the beginning of the word should. This one is not written properly, so let me erase it and try to write it a little better. Right, that's much better. And I'm going to put a closing one right at the end of the sentence. That's after the full stop. And I'm going to read my sentence again because the words that are enclosed in the quotation mark are exactly what the judge would have said. And I'm going to read the words in the quotation mark by themselves. The criminal should be hanged. So the judge is saying the criminal should be hanged. Within the context of the sentence, it should be read, the criminal, said the judge, should be hanged. Let's move on our next adventure. We have a sign that says this is not the only use of quotation marks. There are other uses of quotation marks. And according to our sign, it says quotation marks are used to enclose the names of titles. Titles of what? Titles of articles, titles of stories, titles of poems, titles of songs, and titles of books from the rest of the sentence. Let's go on our adventure. We are nearing the end of our journey. And I'm sure by now you will be able to tell me what is the importance of punctuation and capital letters. Are they really relevant in today's society? Now that you have viewed my lesson, I'm sure that you will be able to identify the importance, and I have my little friend here with me who is sticking, identify the importance of capital letters, identify the importance of using punctuation mark and capital letters correctly in sentences, and you'll be able also to do the following activities. So let me say it again. I am sure you will be able to, 1, identify the importance of what? Capital letters. Yes, capital letters and punctuation marks. I'm sure you will be able to, what again? Use them and use them correctly in writing. So we want to use these same punctuation marks and these same capital letters correctly in writing. And most importantly, you need to show me that you can do that very well. And how are you going to show me that? When you complete the upcoming activity. So let us go to the next activity. It says task 2. Why task 2? This is because in the S.E.Al under the English Language Arts paper, task 2 covers capitalization and punctuation. So I just want to keep the task as it is on that examination. Now, task 2 requires, and let us read the instructions, which is very, very important in doing any examination. The instruction says, there is one punctuation or capitalization error in each line of the passage. Insert the missing punctuation mark or capital letter in its correct place. And I want to pause here for a little while. Correct place. Very often, you will see children put in that missing punctuation mark next to the number. For example, if they are doing number 7, then they will put in perhaps a full stop here. But the instruction clearly says we must put it in its correct place. And we must put it in its correct place in each line. Let me highlight each line. First of all, you must read the passage in its entirety before attempting to put in any punctuation or capital letter. I'm going to say that again. Read the entire passage first, and after you have completed reading the passage, then you are going to put in the missing punctuation mark or capital letter. So let's read together. We are going to read together just for the purpose of this exercise here today. Stop! Yelled the traffic warden as Jenny darted towards the busy highway. I was only trying to retrieve my ball, she explained. The warden quickly snatched her ball, her bat, and her pair of gloves. He placed them in the principal's office. Now I'm going to give you a little time to complete this exercise on your own. You may begin. Now that you have completed the exercise, we are ready to put in the correct answers, and you are going to help me to do so. We have already read the instructions, and we have already read the entire passage. So now I am going to go line by line. First line, number 7. Stop, yelled the traffic warden as Jenny. What capitalization or punctuation mark is missing here? Got it? After the word stop, we put in a punctuation mark. But because we have the word yell here, let me see if I can do this better. Because we have the word yell, we know that it must be a certain type of punctuation mark. When we are yelling, it's a feeling of, in this case, perhaps fear on the part of the traffic warden. So we are going to insert an exclamation mark after the word stop. Here comes my exclamation mark. Beautiful. Next line. Jenny darted towards the busy highway. What do you observe? Excellent. We need a capital letter for the names of persons. So Jenny will begin with a capital J. And notice, I'm not going to take the J and put it across here. I'm going to insert it right over the space here. So my sentence now has a capital J for Jenny. All right, down to the next line. I was only trying to retrieve my ball. If you're not sure, then you come down to the next line. I was only trying to retrieve my ball, she explained. The warden quickly snatched. Let's go back to the line that we are doing now. I was only trying to retrieve my ball. Those are the exact words of Jenny. Therefore, we must enclose them in quotation marks. The opening quotation mark is already here. So therefore, we need to insert the closing quotation marks. And we must be extremely careful with quotation marks. They are placed after the punctuation mark when we are writing that closing quotation mark. So I'm not going to put it before the word ball here or above it. I am going to put it after. Let me erase this marking so that I wouldn't confuse anyone. Right. I'm going to place it after the comma. Beautiful. Now we are on to the next line. So I was only going to retrieve my ball, she explained. The warden quickly snatched. I see a little clue. Do you see it? This is a giveaway. We have this word with a capital letter, and that by itself is a giveaway. We know this is not the name of anything that should be capitalized. And besides, our sentence would have already ended at the word explain. So at the word explain, after explain, we put a full stop there. Let's continue. The warden quickly snatched her ball, her bat, and her pair of gloves. Items in a list. With items in a list, we can either put colon, or we can use commas to separate them. What are we going to do? Remember what we spoke about before. We said that never use colons before between verbs and the objects in sentences. So the verb snatch is here. I cannot put a colon here, because if I do that, I will be putting a colon between the verb and its object, which is her ball. So, and other to that, there is the full stop that is already here on this line. Follow me? So what I must do, I must put a comma to separate the items that are listed. And the items that are listed are her ball, her bat, and her pair of scissors. But we use "and" here to join the last two. So the comma comes after the word ball. Beautiful. We are almost to the end. He placed them in the principal's office. How many principals are there at the school? How many offices? One office. So we know right away it must be an apostrophe, and the apostrophe must go, we can put it after the word principal if we have more than one principal, but in this sentence, there is one principal. How do we know? How do we know that there is one principal? Because you're accustomed going to schools, not so? And you know that in your school, there is only one principal. So the apostrophe comes between the L and the S in the word principal. Now I know that many of you would have completed this exercise very well. And if you did, let me give you a thumbs up. Well done. This has brought us to the end of our session on capitalization and punctuation. Thank you very much for participating in our activities today. See you the next time.